She thought the worst day of her life was when her boyfriend walked out and left her pregnant and alone. She was wrong. Years later, sitting in a packed courtroom, Emma watches her own sister point at her and say, in front of everyone, "I think my husband is the father of her child." The room freezes. On one side, Claire, the perfect older sister, humiliated, shaking with rage, clutching her wedding ring like it's the last piece of her old life. On the other, Emma, the messy younger sister, a single mom who's spent 6 years raising a little girl everyone thinks belongs to a man who vanished, while secretly trying to forget one drunken, unforgivable night with her brother-in-law. In the middle of it all stands Daniel, model husband, favorite son-in-law, the man both sisters trusted, in very different ways. The family is split. The parents don't know who to believe, and watching from the front row is the little girl whose DNA might destroy every relationship in that room. An envelope lies on the judge's desk. Inside, it is the answer to one question. Is he just her uncle, or is he her father? Stay until the end and ask yourself, who would you condemn if the truth was yours to judge? Before anyone mentioned DNA, before anyone said the word affair, there were just two sisters who used to share everything. Emma and Claire grew up sharing a bedroom, secrets, and dreams that didn't fit inside their parents' tiny house. Claire was the golden one, top of her class, organized, responsible, the girl adults trusted with keys and bills. Emma was the storm, messy room, loud laugh, feelings too big. The girl adults said had potential if she ever got serious. It never bothered Emma much, at least not at first. Claire would braid her hair before school, cover for her when she got home late, help her hide love letters in old shoe boxes. They weren't just sisters, they were a team. Then Daniel arrived. Claire met him at university and brought him home one Christmas like a trophy she didn't know she was carrying. He was everything their parents loved. Polite, well-spoken, already working in a good job, the kind of man who shook hands and looked you in the eye. "Finally," their mother whispered in the kitchen, watching Daniel help clear the table. "Someone who deserves Claire." Emma heard it. It stung more than she wanted to admit. Deserved Claire. And what did she deserve? Still, Daniel was good to her, at the beginning. He laughed at her jokes, asked about her art projects, brought her coffee when she stayed up late working on things she never finished. "You're more talented than you think," he told her once, when she showed him a half-finished drawing. "You just don't know where to put all that energy." Nobody had ever described her chaos as energy before. She liked him, not in the way Claire liked him, just as the first man who didn't treat her like a shadow of her sister. Claire and Daniel got engaged, married, bought a small house that smelled like fresh paint and new appliances. Emma stood beside her sister at the altar, holding her bouquet, holding her breath, holding back a feeling she couldn't name. It wasn't jealousy exactly. It was the sharp awareness that a chapter between them was closing, and another was starting without her. Then Emma met Mark. He wasn't Daniel. He didn't have Daniel's steady gaze or careful words, but he had a crooked smile and big plans, and for a while that was enough. He told her he loved her after 3 weeks. He moved in after 2 months. He left his dirty socks everywhere and kissed her forehead when she talked too much. Claire didn't like him. "Something's off," she told Emma quietly on a Sunday afternoon while they washed dishes at their parents' house. "Just because he's not Daniel?" Emma snapped. "Just because he doesn't look me in the eye when he says he's working late," Claire replied. Emma rolled her eyes, but the seed was planted. A year later, it sprouted. Mark didn't work late. He disappeared, first for nights, then for good. He left a note that said he needed to figure himself out, and a closet full of clothes Emma couldn't look at without feeling sick. She was still staring at that closet when the nausea started. She told herself it was stress, food poisoning, anything but what it really was. A pink line on a cheap test in a cheap bathroom in a cheap apartment telling her that the man who left had left something behind. When she told Claire, her sister hugged her so tightly their bones pressed together. "You're not alone," Claire said. "You have me. You have us." Daniel nodded, standing in the doorway. "We'll help," he promised. For a while they did. They went with her to appointments, helped her find baby clothes at thrift stores, brought over food when her stomach turned at everything she tried to cook. But something changed after Lily was born. Maybe it was the way Emma would stare at her daughter like she was the only thing keeping her on the planet. Maybe it was the way people at family gatherings started saying, "She's so beautiful," but then adding, "Shame the father isn't in the picture." Maybe it was the way every conversation about responsibility circled back to Emma's choices. "You fall for the wrong men," her mother said once. "As if I chose to be abandoned," Emma muttered under her breath. And then, there was that night. It was Claire and Daniel's anniversary. A small party at their house, just family and a few friends. Lily was almost 1, chubby hands grabbing at everything, curls just starting to form. Emma arrived late, tired from a double shift, Lily heavy on her hip. Claire was in full host mode. Perfect dress, perfect smile, perfect table. "You made it," she said, kissing Emma's cheek. "Go put Lily in the bedroom. She can sleep there if she gets fussy." Emma nodded, kissed Daniel on the cheek in greeting, and slipped down the hallway. The night was loud. Music, laughter, glasses clinking. Somewhere between the third and fourth drink, small comments began to sting. "You'll settle down when you find someone serious," an aunt said. "Not like that last one you picked." "At least your sister chose well," another added, raising her glass toward Daniel. Emma swallowed hard, wine burning in her throat. She went outside for air. She didn't notice Daniel follow her until he spoke. "They're being cruel," he said softly. She turned, wiping at her eyes quickly. "I'm fine," she lied. "No, you're not," he replied. He handed her a glass of water. "You're a good mother, you know that?" he added. "Better than some people who have everything and still don't care." Oh, his words cracked something already fragile. "I don't feel good," she admitted. "I feel like I ruined my life. Like I ruined Lily's life. Like everyone is just waiting to see what disaster I choose next." He shook his head. "You didn't choose abandonment," he said. "You love someone who didn't deserve it. That's not a crime." His eyes were kind. Too kind. "I wish I had your stability," she blurted. "Your everything. You and Claire, you're perfect together." He looked away for a moment, jaw tightening. "We're not as perfect as we look," he said quietly. Something in his tone made her heart stumble. "What do you mean?" she asked. He hesitated. "Everyone sees the Instagram version," he said. "Nobody sees the fights, the pressure, the way she looks at me sometimes like I'm one mistake away from being a disappointment." Emma winced. She knew that look. "I don't think you're a disappointment," she said. There was too much alcohol in her veins, too much pain in the air, too many years of feeling like the wrong sister. Lightning doesn't announce when it's about to strike. It just finds the tallest, most exposed thing and hits it. Later, when Emma replayed that night, she never remembered who leaned in first, only the taste of guilt that came after. It was quick, messy, a moment that felt like drowning and being pulled to the surface at the same time. The second it was over, shame slammed into her chest. "This was a mistake," she whispered. "Yes," Daniel said immediately. "We can never talk about this. Never. It didn't happen." She nodded, throat burning. He went inside first. She stayed out a little longer, staring at the stars that didn't blink back. For weeks, she avoided being alone with him. Avoided looking at herself in mirrors. She told herself it was nothing. One terrible choice, sealed in silence. Then her period was late, and that familiar fear, that old nausea, came back like a shadow she thought she'd escaped. She did the math, counted days, remembered kisses and touches she wished she could erase. The timeline was a blur, Mark. Daniel. Heartbreak in layers. When the second test turned positive, she sank to the bathroom floor. "Not again," she whispered. "Please, not like this." But life doesn't ask for your approval before it keeps moving. When the doctor confirmed she was pregnant again, Emma made a decision. She would never, ever connect that night to the child inside her. She told everyone it was Mark's. Let them roll their eyes and say she never learned. Let them blame her for going back to a man who left. The lie hurt, but telling the truth would have killed something much bigger. So she raised Lily as Mark's daughter in everyone's eyes. Even as Lily grew, even as people started saying, "She has Daniel's eyes." Isn't that funny? Even as Claire's smile got tighter every time someone pointed out how alike they looked. The night nobody talked about stayed buried, until the day Claire finally said out loud what everyone else had only thought in whispers. "Is my husband her father?" And silence once again wasn't going to be enough. 6 years later, the night nobody talked about had turned into a life everybody had opinions about. Emma had dark circles under her eyes and a job at a small cafe. Her hands smelled permanently of coffee and dish soap. Her phone background was Lily's face, big brown eyes, messy curls, smile wide enough to erase an entire bad day. Lily was the kind of child strangers smiled at without thinking. Polite, curious, too smart for her age. She also copied Daniel's laugh perfectly. Emma noticed it first at a family barbecue. Daniel told a joke. Everyone laughed. He threw his head slightly back, shoulders shaking, a tiny snort at the end. Lily, sitting on Emma's lap, laughed the exact same way. Head tilt, shoulder shake, same tiny snort. For half a second the world tilted. Emma's heart clenched. Kids learn by imitation, she told herself. She sees him all the time. That's all. She tried to believe it. Then came the eyes. At a birthday party, Claire's mother-in-law leaned down to pinch Lily's cheeks. "She's beautiful," the woman cooed. "Those eyes, just like Daniel's when he was little." Emma's fingers tightened around the juice cup in her hand. Claire's smile froze for a fraction of a second. Emma laughed it off. "Everyone says she looks like whoever's talking," she joked. "She's a chameleon." But when she looked up, Claire wasn't laughing. Later that night, Emma caught her sister staring at Lily from across the room. Not in the usual proud aunt way, but like someone staring at a puzzle piece that didn't seem to fit. "You okay?" Emma asked. "I'm fine," Claire replied too quickly. "Just tired." Tired became her new answer for everything. The first real crack happened on a Sunday lunch at their parents' house. The table was full. Chicken, rice, salad, family noise. Lily sat between Daniel and Claire, chattering about school. "And then the teacher said I draw better than everyone," Lily announced proudly. "Of course you do," Daniel replied, ruffling her hair. "You're the most talented person at that school." "You're biased," Claire said, forcing a smile. "Maybe," he replied, "but I know talent when I see it." Their father watched them with a sharp old man's gaze. "You two look like a father and daughter," he commented casually. "Same eyes, same way of talking." The room went quiet for a second too long. "Dad," Claire said, voice tight. "She has a father, even if he's not around." I know, he said, shrugging. "Just saying they look alike. Relax." Emma's fork felt heavy. She could feel sweat forming at the back of her neck. Lily looked between the adults, sensing tension she didn't understand. "Uncle Daniel isn't my dad," she said firmly, like she'd heard the sentence before. "He's my friend." Daniel swallowed. "That's right," he said, his voice just slightly off. "I'm your friend. And your uncle." Emma felt like the walls were closing in. After lunch, while everyone washed dishes, Claire cornered Emma in the hallway. "Can I ask you something?" she said too calmly. "Sure," Emma answered, dread pooling in her stomach. "That night," Claire began, "our anniversary, the one when you went outside and disappeared for a while, where did you go?" Emma's breath hitched. Needed air, she said. People were saying things. I felt overwhelmed. With who? Claire asked. Emma frowned. What do you mean? You weren't alone, Claire said. I noticed. Daniel disappeared too. Mom asked where he was. You both came back in from the garden, one after the other. Her tone wasn't angry yet. It was worse. Surgical. Claire, why didn't you ever tell me what happened that night? Claire pushed. Because... Emma's words tangled in her throat. Because nothing happened. Claire's eyes narrowed. Are you lying to me right now? Emma wanted to say no, wanted to hold the line, wanted to keep the door nailed shut. But guilt ages badly. After 6 years, it was rotting inside her. Her eyes burned. I made a mistake, she whispered. Claire blinked. What kind of mistake? She asked, though she already knew. I was drunk. He was drunk. We were both lost, Emma said, each word like glass in her mouth. It was one time, Claire. One horrible, stupid time. I've hated myself for it every day since. The hallway shrank. Claire's face went blank in the way people's do right before an explosion. You slept with my husband, she said softly. Yes, Emma replied, voice breaking. Once. I'm so sorry. And then you got pregnant. The air disappeared from the room. Claire, I don't know who Lily's father is, Emma said, panic rising. The timing, it was all mixed. There was Mark, and then that night, and I... So it's possible, Claire interrupted, that my husband is the father of your daughter. The way she emphasized my and your felt like a wall being built brick by brick between them. Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. It's possible, she whispered, but I never wanted it to be. I told everyone she was Mark's because... What else was I supposed to do? Blow up your marriage? Destroy our family? Oh, so you lied to protect me, Claire shot back, bitterness finally boiling over. You did me a favor by sleeping with my husband and hiding it? It wasn't like that, Emma pleaded. I was broken. He was hurting. We were stupid. It was a moment. It meant nothing. It meant nothing? Claire snapped. To you, maybe. To me, it might mean that my entire marriage, my entire life is built on a lie. Her voice rose. People in the kitchen stopped talking. Claire, please, Emma begged. We can talk about this calmly. I don't want calm, Claire spit. I want the truth. Real truth. Not your, I'm not sure, truth. She took a step back like Emma was something contagious. We're doing a DNA test, she declared. If Daniel is Lily's father, I want it on paper. I want everyone to see who betrayed who. And if he's not, Emma asked quietly, then I'll know I married a coward who let me doubt my own sister because he never told me what happened that night, Claire replied. Either way, something dies. She walked away before Emma could answer. Emma leaned against the wall, the house suddenly too full of memories and not enough air. Lily's laughter floated in from the living room, oblivious. The next days were a blur of unanswered calls and short, cold messages. Claire moved into her parents' house for a while, taking only a suitcase and her laptop. Daniel stayed at home, fielding questions from friends with vague excuses about needing space. When Emma tried to call her sister, the call went straight to voicemail. When she called Daniel, he picked up on the second ring. What did you tell her? He demanded, no greeting. The truth, Emma replied. That something happened once. That the timeline is messy, that I don't know. You should have kept your mouth shut, he snapped. It was 6 years ago. We agreed it never happened. I was drowning, she said. She looked at me like she already knew. I couldn't lie anymore. So you decided to take everything down with you, he replied bitterly. You're the one who climbed into that garden with me, she shot back. I didn't do this alone. Silence. Then, softer. You really don't know? He asked. About Lily? No, she answered. And every time she laughs like you or tilts her head like you, I feel like I'm going insane. He exhaled shakily. Claire wants a DNA test, Emma added. Of course she does, he muttered. She called a lawyer, says she wants it done officially, in court, like a circus. Maybe it's what we deserve, Emma said quietly. I didn't sign up to be the villain in some courtroom drama, he snapped. You signed up when you kissed me back, she replied. The line went dead. The letter came 3 weeks later. A stamped envelope, a court date, formal language that made everything feel colder. Family court invites, paternity test, evidence, legal representation. Emma read it 3 times. Her hands shook so hard the paper rattled. Mom, what's wrong? Lily asked, walking into the room with a coloring book. Emma forced a smile. Just grown-up stuff, she said. Nothing you need to worry about. Lily climbed onto the couch. Am I in trouble? She asked. The question pierced deeper than she expected. No, Emma whispered, pulling her close. You're the only thing in my life that's not a mistake. Lily leaned her head on Emma's shoulder. Then why do adults look sad when they talk about me? She asked. Emma shut her eyes. Because adults are stupid sometimes, she answered, and they forget that kids can hear everything. On the day of the hearing, the courtroom felt exactly like Emma had always imagined, too big and too small at the same time. Claire sat on one side, spine straight, face pale but composed. Daniel sat next to her, wedding ring still on, eyes fixed on a point on the wall. Emma sat opposite them, hands clenched in her lap. Lily wasn't there. The court had decided she didn't need to be present for the first session. She was with their mother, who crossed herself 3 times when Emma left the house. At the center of the room, on the judge's desk, lay an envelope with 2 names on it, Daniel, Lily. The test had already been done. Swabs, signatures, sterile cotton and fluorescent lights. Daniel's jaw locked as they swiped his cheek. Lily had giggled when they did hers, asking if it was a doctor game. Now, all that remained was to open the envelope and turn a possibility into a fact. But before that, the judge wanted to hear the story. How did we get here? He asked, eyes moving between the 3 adults. Emma took a breath. In her mind, she saw 2 little girls in a shared bedroom, whispering secrets under a blanket. Out loud, she began, It started, long before any of us ever said the words, DNA test. And as she spoke, the whole courtroom leaned forward, not to hear science, not to hear law, but to hear how a family that once shared everything had turned into 3 strangers waiting for paper to decide what they were to each other. The judge's pen made a soft scratching sound as he finished reading the file. It was the only noise in the room. Emma sat with her hands locked together so tightly her knuckles were white. Her heart beat against her ribs like it was trying to get out. On the other side, Claire stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, eyes rimmed red. Daniel's leg bounced under the table, the only sign he wasn't made of stone. The envelope sat on the judge's desk, plain, thin, terrifying. It was such a small thing to hold such a big question. Before we open the result, the judge said, I want to hear from each of you, not just about biology, but about what you believe you are to this child. His eyes landed on Claire. Mrs. Robinson, he said, you may speak first. Claire stood. Her fingers trembled as she smoothed an invisible crease on her skirt. I used to think my worst fear was that my husband would cheat on me, she began, voice low but steady. I was wrong, she swallowed. My worst fear is looking at my sister and seeing someone I don't recognize. She didn't look at Emma. She looked at the judge, at some neutral place just above his shoulder. Daniel and I, we were the good couple in the family, she continued bitterly. The example. The ones everyone pointed to and said, at least those 2 have their life together. I believe that. I built my whole identity around being the reliable one, the one who doesn't make a mess. Her voice cracked. And then I found out, she said, that while I was in my own house, celebrating my marriage, the 2 people I trusted the most were outside, breaking it. The words hung in the air like smoke. I don't know if this test will say my husband is Lily's father, she went on. Part of me already feels like I've lost something either way. If he is, My marriage is built on betrayal. If he isn't, then I have to live with the fact that I doubted my own niece, that I let suspicion poison every smile I saw on her face. Her eyes flickered toward Emma for a split second, then away again. I brought this to court because I needed the truth on paper, she finished. I needed something I can't argue with at 3 a.m. when my mind is tearing me apart. I don't know what to do with that truth yet, but I need it. She sat down, breathing hard. The judge nodded slowly, then turned to Daniel. "Mr. Robinson," he said, "what is your role in this, in your own words?" Daniel stood with the stiffness of someone going to his own execution. "I'm the one who had everything to lose," he started. Then he stopped, realizing how it sounded. "No, that's not right. I'm the one who risked everything and acted like I didn't." He exhaled. "That night on our anniversary, I felt small," he said. "Claire and I had been fighting. She said some things, I said some things. I walked outside to escape my own anger, and Emma was there drowning in hers. He didn't try to dress it up. We were drunk," he said. "We were hurt. We did something that never should have happened. I told myself it was a moment of weakness, that if I pretended it didn't exist, it would disappear." He looked at the floor. "It didn't," he admitted. "It crawled into every quiet space of my life. Every time I saw Emma and Claire in the same room, I wondered if they could feel it between us. Every time Lily laughed like me, I wondered if the universe was mocking me." He finally looked at Emma. "I should have told the truth a long time ago," he said. "Maybe not all the details, maybe not that night, but I should never have let you carry this alone." Then he turned toward Claire. "And I should never have let you doubt your own sister more than you doubted me," he said. "Whatever the DNA says, I am guilty of that." He sat down, shoulders slumped. The judge's gaze shifted to Emma. "Miss Hayes," he said gently. "You?" Emma stood as if pulled by invisible strings. She felt everyone's eyes hit her at once. The messy sister, the single mother, the possible thief of somebody else's life. "I know what I look like in this story," she began. "The one who always made bad choices, the one who brought chaos into a carefully organized life." She took a long, shaky breath. "I made the worst mistake of my life with a man I should have never touched," she said. "And then I made another mistake by burying it instead of confessing. I told myself I was protecting Claire, protecting the family, protecting Lily." Her voice broke on her daughter's name. "But really," she continued softly, "I was protecting myself from having to watch everyone hate me at once." She blinked back tears. "When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't do a spreadsheet of dates and possibilities," she said. "I did what scared people do. I picked the story that hurt the least in that moment. Telling everyone she was Mark's child, letting them blame the man who left, seemed cleaner than telling them she might be the result of the ugliest night of my life." She shook her head. "I love my daughter," she said. "More than I hate myself. That's the only reason I'm standing here instead of running. I don't know what that envelope will say. I don't know if it will call Daniel father or just uncle. I only know one thing for sure." She lifted her chin. "Whatever the paper says," she finished, "I'm her mother. I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who'll be there when everyone else leaves this room." Silence fell. The judge leaned back, studying the three of them like pieces of a puzzle he knew he couldn't truly solve. "Thank you," he said at last. His hand moved toward the envelope. Every heartbeat in the room seemed to sync with the movement. He picked it up, slipped a finger under the seal, tore it open with the same care someone might use to open a bomb. Paper rustled. Eyes followed his every movement. He read the result once, then again. "Regarding the question of biological paternity," he said, voice steady, "the test shows a probability of 99.999%. Emma's stomach dropped. that Mr. Daniel Robinson is not the biological father of the child. The words hit like a slap in the opposite direction everyone expected. Not. Emma felt her knees weaken. She grabbed the edge of the table to stay upright. A sound escaped Claire's throat, something between a sob and a broken laugh. Daniel closed his eyes, exhaling a breath that had been trapped inside him for 6 years. "That means," the judge continued, "that the man listed on the original birth records remains the legal father, unless further challenges are brought." He looked at Emma. "In other words, Miss Hayes," he said, "your daughter is not by blood your sister's husband's child." The room buzzed quietly. Whispers, shifts, a few people shaking their heads, as if the story had betrayed their prediction. The prosecutor adjusted her papers, already mentally moving on to the next case where the numbers matched the scandal. But for the three at the center of it all, the story didn't end with the word "not." It only twisted. Claire pressed a hand over her mouth, eyes flooding. "So she stammered, looking at Emma for the first time in weeks. "I did all this. And she was just my niece the whole time?" Emma's lip trembled. "She's always been your niece," she whispered. "That never changed. Only our fear did." Claire shook her head, tears spilling. "I accused you," she said. "I dragged you into court. I looked at Lily and saw something dirty, when all she ever did was exist." "You had reasons," Emma said weakly. "I gave you reasons. I lied. I hid things. Reasons are not excuses," Claire cut in, anger turned inward now. "I let suspicion erase years of sisterhood. I let one night scream louder in my mind than every other night we grew up together." Her voice broke. "I don't know how to forgive you," she admitted. "I don't know how to forgive him. But I'm starting to realize I also don't know how to forgive myself." Daniel stood slowly. "So that's it?" he asked, a hysterical edge in his voice. 6 years of fear, doubt, and guilt? For nothing?" The judge looked at him sharply. "Not for nothing, Mr. Robinson," he said. "For one night you all chose not to speak about. Today doesn't erase what you did. It only clarifies what you didn't." He turned to all three of them. "This court can tell you what the DNA says," he continued. "It can define legal terms. It cannot fix trust. It cannot repair the way you chose to hurt each other. Or yourselves." He set the paper down. "As far as the law is concerned," he concluded, "this case is closed. As far as your hearts are concerned, I suspect the verdict is still out." He banged the gavel. The sound echoed. People started to stand. Papers were gathered. The machinery of justice moved on. But the three of them stayed frozen for a moment longer. Emma finally turned to Claire. "I know I'm sorry doesn't fix what I broke," she said. "But I am. For the night. For the lie. For making you doubt Lily's place in your life." Claire wiped her face. "And I'm sorry," she replied hoarsely, "for making you walk into this room like you were the only villain in a story we all wrote together." She glanced at Daniel. "I don't know if our marriage survives this," she said. "Love can live with a lot of things. I'm not sure it lives with this much silence." He nodded, eyes wet. "I'll do whatever you decide," he said. "Stay, leave, counseling, divorce. You get the final say. You're the one who was loyal to people who didn't deserve it." Claire's shoulders sagged. "This is bigger than today," she murmured. "I can't decide our whole life in a hallway." She picked up her bag. "I'm going to see Lily," she said. "She's the only one here who didn't do anything wrong." She walked toward the exit. Emma hesitated. "Do you want me to stay away?" she asked softly. Claire stopped in the doorway. "I want you to show up," she said without turning. "Again. And again. For Lily. And maybe one day for me. If I can stand looking at you without seeing that night first." Then she left. Daniel followed a few steps behind. Emma remained in the emptying courtroom, the result still ringing in her ears. Not the father, but still part of the damage. She stepped out into the corridor where life went on. Phones rang. Other cases lined up. Other families prepared to be dissected under fluorescent lights. She knew that outside, somewhere, people would hear about the case and say, "So it was all for nothing. So she overreacted. So the kid was never his anyway." But sitting in that room, hearing their voices shake, seeing their faces break, you knew. It was never for nothing. It was about doubt, guilt, fear, love, about what happens when one night is allowed to grow into a monster in the dark. And now if you had been sitting on that bench, hearing everything, knowing that Daniel is not Lily's father, who would you condemn more? The man who stayed silent? The sister who lied and then confessed? The sister who dragged everyone to court because she couldn't live with a question? In the verdict of hearts, the last word is never just the judge's. It's yours.